Hey yo, welcome back to Absolute Intense Wrestling's The Card is Going to Change. My name is Ronald Two Legs, and as always, I am joined by AIW owner John Thorne. What's up, Thorne?
Here we are, another show week, back at it.
Yeah, how was your holiday?
Holiday?
Yeah, Thanksgiving. It was like, what, last week, 2 weeks ago?
Oh, yeah, it was fine.
I love Thanksgiving.
I saw you after Thanksgiving. We had a show the day after Thanksgiving. Why are you asking me how my Thanksgiving was?
That's true. Because I think we podcast. We podcasted it. Well, we haven't podcasted, I guess. I don't know. Because we did that earlier in the week.
So we had a show the next day. What are you talking about?
That's true. I just love Thanksgiving because it's like one of my favorite holidays. It's just easy. There's always good food. You know, Halloween's fun too, but it's not food centric like Thanksgiving is. So I great memories of Thanksgiving. But yeah, show week again. This time we're trying something, a little new. It's a concept we've done before, but a little bit of a twist on it. We're going to get ready for AIW's Cultivate at the Roxy at Mahal's this Friday, December 12th. 7:30 bell time, doors 6:30 like they usually are. Plenty of tickets available still. General admission, I know.
Plenty of tickets available.
Seating available. It's like the Wayne's World thing too. Wayne's World 2 thing. Plenty of seats still available.
It's plenty.
Seating, actual preferred seating is sold out though, right? What's left is just a general admission standing room.
Yeah, but
okay.
Plenty to go around.
Yeah, they can. It's a nice venue. Like I said, I've said many times before. I love the Roxy at Mahal. It's a great venue. But a lot of new talent coming in. We have, the story of the show is the debuting talent. We got some students coming out of the AIW Academy.
We're gonna find out. We're gonna find out if the Roxy loves us. I think after Friday.
Yes.
Depending on how this goes.
Yeah. We will certainly. We will certainly find out.
It's not, I had, it seemed like all things were going according to plan until I got an email from the venue yesterday with the pre-sale ticket numbers.
Yeah.
And it's just like, wow, they sold those 2 rows of tickets. And they sold those 2 rows of tickets, and that's it. So, we're going to see how this goes on Friday. I thought this would be such an easy sell, but I guess maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's a walk-up day. I don't know. I think everybody's feeling a little indifferent after the email I received from the venue.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it's a walk-up day because, like you said, you would think it'd be an easy sell with, the amount of debuts we got coming. You know what I mean? If you can't get people out your first show, you're not going to be able to get them out for your 6th or 7th, yada, like you were saying. This is an important one if it's your first one. You want to get the building packed with your support, You want to be doing everything you can. Be stand in line outside of the grocery store handing out flyers, telling people to come if you got to. I mean, do anything you can.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I keep getting met with, kids these days don't, and this and that, and I met with a lot of excuses when I expressed my shock for the lack of ticket sales for Friday, I don't think that excuses are going to be tolerated. I mean, everybody should be promoting this show like crazy. The idea of it is to provide an additional platform for people not only coming out of the AIW Academy, but a place for people that want to get reps throughout the Midwest. And I don't know. It's.
I mean, like we said with the debuting students, but it's also an opportunity and a platform we're given to students that have been, debuted and have been graduating, but there's not a million spots on every one of these AIW cards. So the same goes for those people, maybe not debuting students, but, you want to, if you find yourself on this card, you want to do everything you can to get supporters in the building because stuff like that is what's going to get your attention and other fans' attention to want to see you on other cards. And, it's definitely disappointing, like you said, that the ticket numbers aren't where they are yet because, this is just seems like you're doing the work on your end to try and, fulfill some of these, obligations that you have to the school and students and stuff like that. And it's disappointing to see maybe it's not being reciprocated on the other end.
Yeah, I mean, the idea is, there's only so many spots on a show, but if we could establish something like this, it just means more shows, more opportunities for those people not getting slotted in all the time on a regularly scheduled AIW show,
Right.
That's the idea is, to provide this, kind of breeding ground for who's going to, kind of be, next talent up as far as, establishing them. And, if it goes well, obviously, this could dictate, a lot of the future direction of the company, honestly.
Yeah.
Is how I was kind of looking at it, because, you look around and, there's all this kind of doom and gloom about the state of independent wrestling that is just inescapable on social media right now. Mm-hmm. Some of which I agree with to certain extents, but, you got to try to stay ahead of that. And that, that's why I thought it was a perfect opportunity to try to do a project like Cultivate, where we're going to kind of peel boil down the expenses and, kind of try to create this action-driven, product, like not a lot of storyline or, things like that. Just, a good, action-based wrestling show with fresh faces, young talent, people, trying to find their way throughout the, the professional wrestling industry. A little lower pressure, but kind of, high reward if, people do well, sort of platform. So I thought it was kind of the perfect recipe for, what could potentially dictate the future, 2026 and beyond, as far as what AIW is going to be. And because again, anybody that listens to this podcast is probably fully aware. You see indies are closing, indies are indicating they're closing. There's just a lot of debate on what's going on with the industry. There's it's a weird time. It's a weird time. You look and you see, the big companies are getting a lot of money. There's a lot of wrestling on television. That is leaving less money, less time for independent wrestling. So, I thought trying to establish something locally with, our crew of people that are kind of, in that purgatory of they've debuted, but they haven't really found their stride as far as, whatever reason, connecting with the crowd or, in-ring work or character work, or, sometimes, people just don't find their way on every show. And I thought this was a perfect lineup, an opportunity to focus on them and give them a chance to grow. But, the kind of other aspect of that is like, they got to take it seriously. They got to understand the opportunity. They got to try to, talk people into the building and promote it as well, because, we are going at it without a big, a meet and greet or any stars or anything like that. So, we're trying to offer up this card of, relatively speaking, not gonna try to offend anybody, but relatively speaking, unknown, unproven, kind of group, collection of talent. Mm-hmm. So it kind of takes, it's a group effort to try to find a way to get people to come out and want to support this.
Yeah, I mean, you could at least, at the very least, say unknown around this area, because a lot of these people that are coming in, maybe they're known from the area where they're, because there's cars coming from all over, Massachusetts, Florida. I mean, there was a wide range of directions that cars are traveling in for this show. So, new around here, these are new talents, that have not been in this area for sure, that are trying to make a name for themselves. That's why I'm really excited about this show. This is people you don't see on every AIW card, but it's tons of new people that are looking to make a name for themselves in the independent wrestling scene. And, we consider AIW to be a top tier independent wrestling promotion. And these people are coming in with, trying to prove themselves and prove their name. And and that can make for some high flying, some high fireworks. I think this show's going to be killer.
Yeah, I mean, you said like a top tier independent wrestling promotion, but I don't even know what that's going to mean in 2026. Really,
yeah.
Things just seem strange, like as far as how video distribution splintered, all of this other I have like theories upon theories upon theories, but like ultimately, I think we need to just focus on making this a place and catering to our local scene, our local market, and keep it exciting. As far as the rest of the world is concerned, I don't know where AIW or any independent company is going to fall as far as, what's top, what's not. I think things are just too drowned in the content abyss that is social media. And, again, everybody, and everybody's shows are available somewhere else. Like there's not like this universal landing spot. Like, for example, I may have said this on a previous podcast, but like pre-streaming, you wanted to get on Smart Mark Video, and that was a landing spot, and people would support those brands that were on Smart Mark Video. Mm-hmm. And now there's not a landing spot. You have IWTV, you have Triller, you have YouTube, you have Patreons, you have other video distribution, and so it's just kind of like it's all over the place. So it's really hard for anybody to make a name for themselves that is a wrestler, and it's really hard to stand out. But I think ultimately, if we can build something that will support a show like this, it becomes a stop for people. You know what I mean? Because look at, for example, like when we do a big show, say like Black Friday, right? Like mm-hmm. we have so many great photographers and different people that buy tickets and come to the shows. It creates such a, social media buzz, so to speak, with the collaboration posts and all this different stuff. There's opportunity here to, in a very, very, grassroots underground sort of way for people to start making some headway and make a name for themselves. And, if it's not AIW, then they go to some other place and they do the same thing. But, we're trying to make this more of a destination, not like just a place where people just show up and, get an envelope and go on their way. We want to create a platform here. And that's why I really hope it works, because it's exciting if it does work, all the different kind of underground, platformed professional wrestlers that are out there in the United States right now looking for work and a place to showcase themselves.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's possible. I think it's a completely doable thing, but that's exactly what you said. And, the wrestlers and the talent have to lock in and have to buy into that. And they're the ones, we have the fans obviously as well, but it starts, with the talent. And that's what we're looking to do with Cultivate here.
And, there's discussion, like, for instance, in our Discord where, Trumbata was just like, what reason do I have to come and support some of these, people? And I thought it was valid,
yeah.
I think wrestlers take fans for granted in some regard.
Yeah.
Because they just expect that they're going to be there and they're going to support them. And, I don't think that's necessarily true. You have to, AIW is giving a platform. AIW is doing everything we can to get people there, but like you have to make a connection for a fan to actually want to pay and show up to see you, mm-hmm. And then if they pay to come and see you, maybe they want to buy a shirt from you or something. Maybe they don't, but like,
I think it goes even slower than that. I think it's they see you at a show and maybe have a little bit of a connection, see a match, and then the next show they're even fully and just engaged in cheering on your match and enjoying it, and then maybe the next show they buy a shirt. I think it takes even longer, and I think it's a full investment. You know what I mean?
It is definitely a slow burn.
Yeah.
And you're correct about that. I was just kind of trying to dumb it down a little bit as much as possible, but you're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
You're absolutely correct. I think that there has just been this sense of like, well, they're going to be there, and it's just like, I don't know that there's been this reality or whatever it is when it comes to a new professional wrestler that doesn't understand that just because you've graduated a training program does not mean that you would be hired for a job. It's no different than graduating college. There's people that are going to be far more qualified than you are to do jobs, and there are. Like wrestling is strange because I said this before too, but like pro wrestlers are the only people that apply for jobs at places that aren't hiring. It's just like. You get endless amounts of emails and copy and paste and
there were some great examples of that through the process of the show that you had told us about, of people like emailing over and forgetting to change the name of the promotion they're emailing.
Right, and because it's all just copy and paste and it's all formulaic and it's not going to work. As far maybe it works on whatever. Show that is not going to is just existing to exist and isn't even really trying to draw fans. I don't know, but there are indies that are just like you just go, how does this even exist? But maybe those people love getting emails and getting called the wrong name and wrong promotion and all that stuff. But I think wrestlers have to do a little more to earn fans' support. Especially now, there's going to be wrestling probably on television 6 days a week or something. I mean, it's crazy, and at the independent level, I think we're going to kind of come full circle a little bit, and things are going to bottom out, and wrestlers are going to need to work a little harder to get fans to come out to these shows, be it AIW or any other indie. It's going to be truly a group collaboration to between promoter and wrestler and staff to get people to show up in these buildings. But that's not only are we trying to cultivate new talent, we want to cultivate new fans through this process too. Because, again, like fans get older, fans get responsibilities, fans can't come all the time, and you need to constantly be trying to, go out and find new fans to come and fill these seats too, so that is also a part of this project by, giving a direct pipeline for people coming out of the AIW Academy, but just other talent in general is maybe somebody's never come to AIW, but they've seen Ichiban on a streaming platform or YouTube or something like that, and they're like, oh, we're gonna come see this guy. It's all about trying to get new fans engaged in AIW and engaged in these new talents, and it's really kind of like this full circle sort of project. But again, we can draw it up, like a fucking a football player or something, we can draw it up, but it's not necessarily going to go the way we drew it up, and it's seemingly, as of right now, when we're recording this, it's not going the way we drew it up because, I thought that this would be an easy sell for, the local talents really, trying to get people in, the intrigue of the new the new traveling in talents that are relatively unknown, and it doesn't seem to be the case, and I do think that, like what Trombetta said in the Discord is very valid. What is the reason for the fans to come out and support these talents.
Yeah, and that's why I said I'm a little disappointed in some in some of the roster just based on the tickets. Like I said, hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully it's just a strong walk-up day, but it's you got to give people a reason to come out. I think there's it could be. I think the reasoning we talked about too, and I think people are just used to seeing AIW shows full. They're just, we don't have too many bad draws, but that's not something that just happens. The people on those cards are putting in the work to get people in the building. People aren't just going to show up just because it's AIW. Trombetta, like we're saying, we've referenced him several times now. He's a big time AIW supporter. He's not, he can't just be expected to come to every single show just because it's an AIW show. You'd want it that way in a perfect world, sure, but you at least as a talent on that card got to give him a reason or attempt to give him a reason, vignette, a promo, something, give something to make him want it.
Kelly.
Yeah, that's an easy one. That's on you though. You bring her, you bring PK and Mike showing up, but you know what I'm saying. It's just, I think maybe the fans, get taken for granted a little bit, maybe in that regards that they just.
No, I agree. I think it's 100% like this weird mentality, like I'm the wrestler, they're the fan, they're coming to see me, blah 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 blah, and that's bullshit. Like it's a bullshit mentality that a lot of wrestlers have, and it's. Couldn't be further from the truth. Like these are the people with money. These are the people that need to show up for you to get an envelope of money. It's and they don't have to come. So I think that I hope that this turns out differently than it's at least looking a few days out. Mm-hmm. But
there's still time. If you're here, they could be hearing this. I don't know when you're going to put it out. Today, obviously, is Wednesday as we're recording, but there's still time to get ticket sales. If you're, a wrestler, you're hearing this. I mean, that's what it's going to take. Unfortunately, we need to pack the building. The Roxy at Mahal's. This is a Friday night. They're not just going to just keep giving us a building if we can't put people in it. They're great people. It's a nice time. The staff there is great, but they're not just going to keep putting us in there. The burden lays on us to put people in the building to sell.
They gave us a prime time slot on a Friday night, and they want people in that building. One way or the other, they want people in that building, and if we can't put people in the building, they're not going to give us a date. It's as simple as that. I mean, it's business on their end, and you have to get it, because we have an obligation to bring people to their venue. And, if we can't do that, they're going to put something in there. They're going to put a band in there, something that will bring people to their venue.
Yeah.
And, I think, like, this is kind of a silly kind of way to think about it, but anybody that's come up through music and things like that, like, it's no different than, you gotta, if you're put on an opening slot, like, you gotta bring people to see the headlining band. Mm-hmm. You're not there because you fucking are talented. You're there to help bring people to the venue, because there's a headliner and it needs to be full. And, it's kind of the same idea when you're breaking into wrestling. And I think that's just been lost, over the last several years, because wrestling has been very popular. Wrestling has been pretty hot, and you can put a name or two on there, and you're going to get those diehard wrestling fans to come out. But I think the fight for the diehard wrestling dollar is going to get harder because there's free wrestling on television all the time, and it's just like, well, how can I pay attention to AIW? I got to pay attention to WWE. They have, 3 brands alone on television. AEW, now TNA is going, national on top of any other indie you may watch. It's very demanding to be a fan of wrestling, and I very much could see people just throwing their hands up and going, I'm gonna go fucking watch stand-up comedy or support some other entertainment that is easier to keep up with, Mm-hmm. So again, like, I just don't think that fans can be taken for granted that they're going to come out and support especially as you get into 2026, I think it's going to be a lot more difficult. So anything we can do to kind of establish, this show Friday, and if it does turn out well, you do another one, and you keep kind of building and bringing in and intertwining these new fans with old fans, and it helps develop new talent. I mean, on paper or in my brain, I don't even know on paper, but at least in my brain, it makes total sense, but I don't know if it's going to work.
Yeah, I mean, that's it makes perfect sense, not just in your brain, but out loud, saying it out loud. We've discussed it with a lot of people. We all agree. I think but like you said, we have to put people in the building. The idea doesn't work, to a half-empty building. So, there's plenty of time. Get your tickets. The Dice app, I believe, is where you get your tickets for Roxy at Mahall's. Cheap tickets.
Dice.fm, I believe, too.
Under $22 gets you in the door for a Friday night. The Roxy has cheap drinks. It's not like one of these places, downtown or anything that's super expensive. There's plenty of free parking all around in Lakewood. There's plenty of free parking. It's a safe area. Your car's not going to get busted into or nothing, on the street or anything like this. Not like a horrible area.
I mean, you can't help it if it does.
Well, you can't guarantee anything, but it's not like an area like that that's known for really, you don't want to park your car there. It's nothing like that. It's, it's a safer area. Obviously, like I said, can't give any guarantees, but it is a safer area where everyone's going to be parking. But there's a huge parking lot directly across the street, two-sided parking lot that fits plenty. I mean, they have sellout shows there plenty of time, all the time, and parking fits in those lots. So there's plenty of free parking right in those lots right across the street.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a cool venue, again, and free parking, cheap drinks. There's food for sale in there.
Great food too. Great food in there.
Really good food in there. Yeah, so we really want this. We really want this to work. I mean, honestly. But if it doesn't, it doesn't, and then we just put all of our focus on the regular AIW schedule, because that's going to be hard enough, I think, to pull off next year. And I don't know. I'm experimenting. I'm trying new things, because you just don't know where the chips are going to fall next year. But it's already looking not great. We've seen several companies announce closures and indicate closures, and all this other stuff. I don't want to do that. You know what I mean?
No, not at all. I mean, not to go doom and gloom, obviously bring it the other way, and won't say too much, no breaking news or anything, but there was some talks of maybe a newer venue coming in this summer at a pretty rad area if the wires cross and everything could be good. John Thorne isn't taking this 2026 lying down. He wants to, make AIW better and greater, a better place for everyone, the wrestlers, talent, everybody. But that burden can't only rely on Thorne. Thorne is doing everything he can. It's up to the wrestlers. It's up to the fans. It's up to everybody. It's a group project, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, we are. We're trying to get into maybe some new markets and different things next year. But it's all just a dream, kind of at this point. You don't. If we go back and you're getting 100 people, and it's just not sustainable. So, even Friday, there's expenses. There's expenses, right? And this is not really more again, this isn't more a message to the fans, even though, this is kind of a Hardsell podcast, but it's really, to the performers that, especially coming out of the AIW Academy, I don't think they realize that they go and pick up how much that costs, and the venue and all the different things, before the show even goes on. And if nobody comes there Friday, well, guess what? Guess who's paying for it? It's going to be me. So
yeah.
I'm not really in a position to take on too much of that, next year. So it truly is going to be like a trial by fire Friday, in a sense that if it goes well, and it's a success, we're going to try it again. But if there's 100 people in there, that's not good, and like,
Yeah.
even, even, Dom kind of was like, well, if we do this, that's a success. And I said, it's not a success because it's you are pulling a number that is not a sellout. You know what I mean? Like anything under a very close sellout, I think is a failure for this show. Truly, I don't want to, I don't want to accept mediocrity. I don't want these students to, accept like, well, this is good if it's not good. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I think that just becomes, that becomes the lay of the land once you're accepting of a failure, and then the next failure is not so like you keep moving the goalpost to make yourself feel a little better, and it's just like, I want this place to be fucking packed on Friday. I mean, I'm not accepting anything other than that, and if it's not, these talents are going to have to look themselves in the mirror and say, is this really something that I want to do? Or I should be doing, because, and I did tell them this week, I said, if you can't get 20 people to come support you, you're never going to get 20,000 people to support you. I said, you have to become self-promoters. That is really how this business works. Stars are people that dictate attention from many people. So, if you are just a person that wants to go out there and say, hey, I'm a wrestler, and like you're wrestling in front of people that don't care to see you wrestle, well, they're probably not, those people probably aren't going to care to see you wrestle. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
like if you're going out there and you're just like, hey, here I am, I'm the wrestler that's making my having my first match ever. Nobody knows me. Nobody knows my name. Nobody knows anything about me. Unless you do something that is just unbelievably athletic, it's going to be a long night for you. And you have to become a self-promoter and try to get support for yourself, and that starts at match 1, and then like you were saying, like maybe by match 3 some of the AIW fans are saying, hey, maybe I'm going to buy that kid's t-shirt. Like you just don't know, but it's a snowball effect. And I just think that the expectation of a lot of these kids are, there's always people at AIW shows. Well, this isn't an AIW show in the typical sense that it's an AIW show. There's no big meet and greet star. There's no this star that's also wrestling on the show. You know what I mean? There's not the social media following of a lot of these people is virtually unknown. So we're not. It's not like to like bring like I know we joked with the Trombetta against booking Priscilla Kelly. It's always a sold ticket for him, but like, let's take Priscilla Kelly, for example. Like, if you book her on a show for her rate, which is, again, much higher than anybody's going to get on Friday, but, but you're getting you're investing in advertising in a sense, because, she's going to promote herself because she wants to sell more merch, and she's got like 350,000 Instagram followers. You know what I mean? So it's just like, you're getting so much more reach out of that. So these new wrestlers have to work so much harder to try to get people to come out and support them. And if they don't have anybody come out to support them, there's just, you know what I mean? It's like, you might as well just have a fucking match at the training school.
Yeah, because I mean, and the visibility of the students too is just much different than it was in previous years. The students aren't as out and around at shows as they were back in the day, where you started to meet some of these guys in the merch lines and stuff like that, taking photos. I remember somebody, I forget what fan, some fan is always talking about how the first time they ever met Wes was when Wes was doing shooting people photos on people's phone for the meet and greet. And that was one of the first time they really started to bullshit with Wes and kind of chop it up with him. And then you see him, when he debuts, and then you see him. It's a journey you can follow. It's a little different with some of these students, as they're just not as sociable as in the past. I don't know if it's a new thing with the youth or whatever, but with all these things working against them, it's going to be much harder to get support. And this show is cultivating, for the name, lack of better words, is cultivating a name and a place where you can try to start from the bottom up to groundswell the support that's going to carry you throughout your career. Because like you said, if you can't get 20, you're not going to get 20,000 is an incredible line, because it sounds like a lot and it sounds like this big line, but it's also that's it. That's the baseline of it. It starts at 20. If you ever have this dream of being a wrestler and being a professional wrestler, and signed to WWE or TNA or AEW, it starts with 20. You know what I mean? And if you can't get 20, you're never getting 20,000. It's a bold statement, and it's very true. I when you said that to me, I was like, I hope that resonates with some of these students, because it's a powerful line.
Yeah, and I think, the flip side of it, right, is we have all these people that are willing to travel in for little to no money on Friday for a platform. And it's like a lot of them are coming in with a lot more experience, and they want to show their value of what they could add to a sold out regular AIW show, right? Like there's kind of levels to this thing too, to where the students have everything to gain and also everything to lose. And, these people that are traveling in, they're traveling in for, to showcase what they know that, they are already good at. Mm-hmm. And, a lot of them are far more experienced than any of the people that, are coming from the AIW Academy that are on this show for the most part. So it's like they're coming to block you guys from getting on these regular shows in a sense.
Yeah.
It's to put pressure on to be like, what is your value? And, what is the value of, wrestler X, right? Like, for example, let's use Danny O'Ryan, who's traveling in from Texas.
Wow!
Right? Like,
holy shit!
This guy is
that's a fucking drive.
This guy's traveling in from Texas. I mean, the level of hunger is so much different, right? Like from these established out of town people that are coming in for this show. Like we were saying before, like I kind of feel like the kids coming out of the AIW Academy expect the fans to be there and to support them and all this stuff. But like, we've established that that's probably not a thing that's going to happen unless they work hard to promote themselves. But like, I don't think they're as hungry as somebody that's going to drive in from Texas, right? Like, and, guess who else is from Texas? Shimbashi's from Texas. Guess who knows each other? Shimbashi and Danny O'Ryan. Guess who have had great matches together all over the place? Shimbashi and Danny O'Ryan. So what's Shimbashi going to do? Shimbashi wants to he wants to steal the show, right? Mm-hmm. Like he's kind of in that weird spot where he's on some shows, he's off some shows. And his boy is driving in from Texas, who he knows he can have a fucking banger with.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, who's going to be hungrier on Friday? Like, these two guys or two people coming out of the AIW Academy? That's really what is going to make this show very interesting to me. Watching, taking my kind of promoter hat off and watching as a fan, but like knowing these kind of little intricate details of like these kids are traveling in with immense hunger to make it. Like it's something that you can't teach when you will do anything and everything to make it in wrestling. And I think that, specifically from the out of town people, you're going to see people put their best foot forward because they don't want to be on Cultivate. They want to be on a real AIW main card, so like they're coming to show like their value, in what they can do if there's fucking 500 people, at the Globe Iron or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
It's a different type of hunger that's coming from the out-of-town travelers, I think.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think that's what should make AIW fans excited as well and want to get in the building. If you haven't gotten your ticket, like I said, get on Dice. We did get an email, that there was some worry over the internet connection and some stuff like that. So it's not even an absolute positive it's going to be able to stream. So, I mean, if you're on the fence of I'll just watch the stream or, coming live, I would suggest getting that ticket. It's a very affordable price for a ticket. I think
it's $21.63 all in after fees and tax.
We're under $22. I mean, like we said, we're going to try to stream it. Obviously, we want to be able to give you those 2 streams in a month to our YouTube members. That's kind of a perk we like to do when it's possible. But if it's out of our, control through the club, through the venue, which, we've been going back and forth a little bit, sometimes there's just nothing you can do. So, get there live. I also just think nothing compares to the AIW live experience. The Roxy's a great place, got great price drinks. It's a good time. You can see everywhere. And I was just talking to somebody because I ended up going to a venue in Cleveland that I'm not a big fan of. Not somewhere we run, but won't even say the name, but not a big fan. You just can't see anything. The Roxy is great. No matter where you stand in there, you can see. There's nothing obstructing your view. There's no big poles or no soundboard in the middle of the floor or nothing like that. Anywhere you can stand, you can see. So come on out, have fun with us. Come to our wrestling party. AIW always brings a good time. We're bringing, like I said, what I say earlier, 8 out-of-town new faces. We got 3 talent debuts, a referee debut. I mean...
It might actually be more than that. I know you're trying to count, but like,
I might be wrong. I don't know.
Uncle Chase just got added.
Oh yeah.
He's been gone for a while. He hasn't been to AIW since the Odeon era.
Yeah.
So there's a lot. There's a lot of fresh faces on this show. Some familiar faces obviously as well. You have Wes Barkley, Eric Taylor, Chuck Stone, Sam Holloway. Will be doing a tag match, for the main event. And then, you're going to get a whole card full of just new, pretty much up and down in some capacity. You're going to see somebody that's, not really been there in AIW at some point, right? Like it's going to be whether it's a new debuting student or an out-of-town talent traveling in. There's so much new stuff on this show and new people on this show. And I guess, I'll touch on, you touched on it, but the streaming aspect, right? So I did get an email from the venue that they said that after we streamed JLit, something happened to their like internal server that got all messed up. I guess they're blaming it on us streaming.
I don't understand how that works, but
I don't know what their setup is, but they had like their tech person, essentially saying there's no slots for us to plug into their router. The venue would have to purchase some sort of upgrade, and I haven't heard back yet. So this is kind of a new wrinkle. I just got the email late last night. I explained what we do, and it's kind of like a ball in their court thing. So, I can't give a definitive answer right now as we're recording this because I have not heard now anything back all day after their internet vendor or whoever this person was that they had on the email chain said, they would have to do this. It's up to them. How if they want to get this piece or not. So
yeah,
I don't know. I know we looked it up. if we had to buy it and it was relatively cheap, but
yeah, I mean,
like a ball. It's kind of like a ball in their court thing, based on whatever they got set up going on in there with their Wi-Fi network or whatever.
Yeah. I was thinking about just getting one and bringing it with me just in case, because it's on the affordable side of just buying it and having it. And God forbid if I had to return it to Amazon or something, I probably could. But I think it's a purchase I could make and just have. I mean, I have a fucking giant tote of shit. I have a big rolling case full of shit just in case. What's adding one more piece of equipment if we ever need it? I don't know. So I'm prepared to bring it, but it's really, like you said, kind of a ball in their court. Sometimes the venues get weird about stuff. It's just, it happens. These people run this is where they work. This is, their building, and we're just visitors of it. So, we have to be respectful and have to, do as their wishes. So, it just is what it is,
Yeah, I mean, I did just want to address that, though. And,
of course.
It's kind of like we don't know, like I don't know how, that could have impacted things, but I don't know, somebody that's smarter than me is saying that they have to do this if we're going to stream. So, obviously they're going to defer to their person that set all this shit up for them, and they think that our stream, maybe the person on their end unplugged something that wasn't supposed to be unplugged and then plugged it back in, and they needed to I don't know what happened, but whatever happened, they think we are to blame. So I mean, you just gotta kind of own that, eat that, and hope they remain happy, and we're able to figure out a stream.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be me eating that shit sandwich for sure, because I'm the one that has to deal with the internet and everything. So I'll for sure have to just be like, I don't know what I did. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of where things are at as far as the stream is concerned. So yeah, I mean,
buy a ticket.
People come out Friday. Yeah. I hope people come out Friday. It's $15 plus fees, which I think is $21.63 all in. I hope people come out and support the show. I really think if it does well, it could be a very cool thing to do every few weeks, every few months, of getting new people traveling through the area for the first time, maybe bringing some people back, maybe establishing people that do make their way on main cards. There's just a ton of possibilities if you can establish this thing as something that works and fans support. But again, if fans don't support it, I can't move forward on things that are gonna lose money when I'm already too concerned that the regular shows have a very large potential to lose money in 2026 based on everything feeling cold as far as the industry goes with independent wrestling. You've seen tons of promoters have been on social media and things saying that they feel we're in a cooling period. I kind of tend to agree with that based on just reading the tea leaves, so to speak, and seeing how things are going. But the only way that you can prevent that is to just build and establish your local scene and keep it thriving, and that's what we're trying to do. Again, it's the ball is in the talent's court, the ball's in the fans' court if they want to come out and support this. But I'm not gonna beg on behalf of the academy students. They got to go out and they got to make people want to care. I thought that was we said it multiple times, but I thought that was a tremendous point that was made by Trombetta, saying I need a reason to care, and other people chimed in on that, and I agree. Give fans a reason to come out and spend $21.63, or I'm pretty sure that's what it is. But on Friday night, to come and see you. You want that. You want that value for yourself, right? You need to start building value to yourself as a professional wrestler or brand. All those kind of hot button words that everyone says these days. Branding, all that, all that shit. But it's true, you need it. And, if your brand has no value, then like you just have no value. And as far as a performer goes, not as a person, you're not a person. You are you're a product at this point. So like you need people to want to pay for the product.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know how much more, you really can be said, to be honest, without beating the issue. But come on out. If you haven't gotten tickets, get on the Dice app. There are tickets available at the door too. Like I said, you can walk up and grab tickets. Plenty of cheap drinks.
$5 day of show increase. We have to get that out there too.
Yep, it is at a standard practice.
Standard practice at music venues. They will increase tickets by $5 day of show. So.
I mean, I think we've just been doing that for at least a year or so now, right? I mean, it's been a minute since. I mean, that's just been day of. It goes up $5. I mean, it's just a part of the game at this point.
Well, I mean, we started doing it on our Eventbrite shows just because the music venues we run do it. So we're just like trying to make that practice across the board. But I know for sure that they're increasing it by $5 on Friday. So, just want to get that out there too. So if payday's Thursday. You want to save $5 to get a, PBR tall boy or something, like just buy them in advance.
Yeah, they got them. They got great bar selection. Like I said, plenty of food, free parking. No reason to not come out. I mean, like I said, we're not going to run down the entire cards. No real reason for that. I feel like we've kind of laid out our end of it. Anything else you want to get to? We opened it up for questions, but it was kind of short notice on our Discord. If you'd like to join our Discord, we do have a Patreon, paywall Patreon. For just little as, $5 tier, you can get the shows, our live shows. If you don't want to subscribe to the YouTube, we do have a Patreon where the very next day the shows go up. You can watch them on demand there. Or subscribe to our premium YouTube. You can watch all the live streams when we're able to stream them, typically at the very least once a month. But we're going to try to get you 2 this month with our show here this Friday for Cultivate. And then we do have a show in Akron at the end of the month, the 27th. And we're bringing Nick Nemeth, formerly known as Dolph Ziggler, to the house, to a new venue in Akron that I'm extremely excited about. Real stoked for the new venue in Akron.
Yeah, my guy decided to text me and see how things were doing about 11 p.m. Sunday night, the venue man in Akron. So
right on his normal time zone, right?
Yeah, so they know, they still think we're coming. So all things are looking good. That show is premium seating is almost sold out. We opened up a 4th row, so get them while you can. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, because, I mean, we've never even been to this venue, so there's nothing we can say about it so far. We have no real idea what we're getting ourselves into. So if you want a seat, grab one. More stuff getting announced for that, too. We got stuff coming at the beginning of the year. I know we talked about a little doom and gloom, but we got stuff coming. Show was announced for January for the Globe Iron, correct?
Yeah, with the return of Danhausen to the greater Cleveland market. It's been a while.
Yeah, love that Danhausen. So yeah, anything else you want to get to before we get out of here?
No, I mean, I hope we see everybody on Friday. As far as after partying, we're just going to stay at the Mahal's complex.
Dude, last time we were hammered rocking out at emo night across the thing. With Pat the sound guy, he was ripping. It was a good set. That was a fun. I like that. That venue is cool, man. You could go bowling after the gig if you want to. There's a lot going on, man. It's a good place.
Yeah. So I mean, hopefully Friday turns out to be fun. It's very positive, and this last 53 minutes or so of complaining is all for nothing. But you gotta put it out there into the universe. Can't say that this motivation, or maybe some consider it a threat, has not been put out into the world as to there are consequences, and people are gonna succeed and fail on Friday. And
absolutely.
We're gonna see how it all turns out when the dust settles. I'm very excited. I hope everybody succeeds, but the odds of that are probably very low. But I think it's going to make for an exciting show nonetheless.
Always does, if the sink or swim is always a good time from the fans' perspective. It did just dawn on me too. We should have mentioned this earlier, but our own commentary man, Dustin Alberti, does a podcast / Patreon kind of behind the wall video series, Back to School, I believe it's called, where he does interviews with all the students and stuff like that. And all 4 of our new debuts have homeschooled. Excuse me, sorry about that. Sorry, Dustin. Homeschooled. I know you've taken those videos and turned them into podcast episodes. I believe they're all out as of now, or have you?
Yeah,
right?
There's all the new debut students did them. They were all available, made available for free on all of our social media, YouTube, and then I did clip them all together into one long podcast that was put out on this podcast feed last week.
So there you go. If you didn't see that, maybe you're just seeing this on the YouTube, or you're just seeing the, the post for the podcast. You missed those. There are those interviews out there with Dustin, who always does a great job. So check those out if you're looking for, a little bit deeper dive on some of these debuts to see what's coming for Friday. So, all right. Anything else, Norm, before I get out of here?
No, and I mean, Dustin does regularly do that every few months on our Patreon and behind the YouTube premium paywall. So there's other episodes out there with other people that you can seek out if you sign up for either of those paywalled situations. But I mean, hopefully we can really kind of build this scene up and make a cool destination for professional wrestling. I know we've been doing this for a long time, but you always got to constantly reinvent and reevaluate and change and maneuver how things are going to go. And I really think that this could be a blueprint for what the future of AIW could look like if the support's there. And it's a bit of a gamble on Friday doing a show like this with unknown entities and all that stuff that we talked about throughout this podcast. But if it does go well, the upside to this is is endless. And I think it's very exciting, the prospect of if it does work on Friday, because you're going to see more of these events. You're going to see more of these talents coming through town. You're going to see more talent debuting at a higher clip coming out of the AIW Academy. There's just going to be more opportunities for people to work with different people. And there's so many exciting opportunities that can come out of this show working on Friday night. But if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And, it's back to the drawing board, so to speak. So there's just a lot that, there's really a lot riding on Friday. For a lot of people, and also the company in many respects, because I do think that this could turn into really the future of not only cultivating new talent, but cultivating new fans and growing the fan base, and really kind of locking in and catering to this local scene instead of trying to kind of cater to the rest of the country, or put these shows on that are going to play in line with these other independent companies. It's really about zeroing in and locking in on our fan base and trying to grow it and really make this again a destination, a scene, all that stuff. So really, like I said, in my head it all makes sense. The possibilities are endless in my brain, but if it doesn't work, I don't know. It's just kind of let's try to focus on the 10 or so shows, hopefully, that we can do next year, and make those good.
Yep. I'm excited for Friday. Come on out. It's going to be a wrestling party. If you haven't yet, get on the Patreon, subscribe to that. Like we said, plenty of behind the paywall stuff. Go with those homeschool with Dustin. There's plenty of interviews with Pedro, behind the curtain stuff with all the AIW roster members. All the old past shows you can get on our premium YouTube. Those are all up there. And hopefully we'll be streaming on Friday night. So we'll see everybody Friday. Come on out, get on the Dice app, get those pre-sale tickets. Let Thorne get some sleep on Thursday night. Let's sell some tickets. All right, for myself, for John Thorne, for everybody at AIW, we'll see you this Friday for Cultivate. See ya.